at me to run after whoever or whatever I just saw. That's what the training manual would say. Detain trespassers, call for backup, keep them contained. But the training manual wasn't written for a figure barefoot in a gown who vanished into thin air. I backed slowly down the hall, my flashlight shaking in my hand. My radio crackled on my hip and the sound made me jump so hard I smacked my shoulder against the peeling wall. "Eddie, you good?" That was Carlos, the guy in the booth watching cameras. I pressed the button. My voice sounded thin, like it wasn't mine. "Yeah, I thought I saw someone in here." End of the hall. Static. A pause. Then, "Eddie, the feeds in that wing are dead, man. Always been, you sure?" I didn't answer. I left the room with the impossible light on, locked the heavy psych wing door behind me, and forced myself to finish the patrol. My chest felt tight the whole time. When I got back to the booth, Carlos took one look at me and raised an eyebrow. "You looked like you saw a ghost." I didn't laugh. The next night, I told myself I'd imagined it. Maybe my brain filled in shapes in the dark. Maybe the light had bled through from another part of the building somehow. Hospitals are weird places. You see things out of the corner of your eye all the time. Still, I couldn't shake it. Around 2 a.m., I walked past the records office. That place is just shelves and shelves of old patient files, thick manila folders dating back decades. Most are in storage, but a handful of drawers stay accessible in case doctors need them. I don't know what pulled me in there. Maybe I was trying to prove to myself that what I'd seen was just some random squatter who found a way into the psych wing. Maybe I needed something solid. The psych files weren't hard to find. Whole drawer labeled Psychiatric Wing, 1964 to 2002. I started flipping through, skimming names. That's when I found it. Patient 1127, Jane Doe. No last name, just a date of admission, 1987, and no date of discharge. I opened the file. Inside were notes scrawled in fading ink. Female, approximate 25 to 30 years old, found wandering rural highway in hospital gown. No ID. Patient unresponsive to verbal commands, will not speak, appears confused or disoriented. Tendency to disappear from assigned location, staff uncertain of how she leaves secured areas. Then, in red pen, underlined twice, "Do not leave her alone." My stomach dropped. A nurse's progress note from 1988 caught my eye. Patient appeared at the nurse's station at 2:13 a.m., despite being confirmed locked in room 312 only minutes prior. Staff accounted for all keys. Surveillance shows empty hall. Patient uncooperative but not aggressive. States only, "I don't belong here." The file went on for pages. Same patterns. The patient vanishing, reappearing in places she shouldn't, repeating the same phrase. Last entry was from 2002, the year the wing shut down. It just said, "Patient not located during final transfer, presumed escaped." I sat there, file open on my lap, hands sweating onto the paper. I don't know why I did it, but I whispered, "I saw you." And I swear to God, right then, the overhead lights in the records office flickered once, on and off. I slammed the file shut. When I stepped into the hallway, someone was already standing at the far end, bare feet, hospital gown, watching me. She didn't move. Neither did I. The records office door was still half open behind me. My heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. The hallway lights above buzzed faintly, like flies circling a bulb. I whispered into my radio, "Carlos, are you seeing this?" Static. Then, "Seeing what?" You're in the blind spot, man. Records hallway doesn't have a camera. Of course it didn't. When I looked back up, she was gone. I should have run straight to the booth, but instead I walked toward where she'd been standing. Every step echoed too loud. My shoes squeaked on the polished tile. The end of the hallway bent right, leading toward the elevators. When I reached the corner, I leaned just far enough to peek around. Empty. I forced myself back to the booth. My hands were still shaking when I slid into the chair. Carlos looked up from his phone. "You good, dude?" I didn't answer. I just sat there, staring at the monitor wall. For the next few shifts, I kept my head down, did the patrols, checked the doors, and tried to ignore every shadow that looked too long. But she wasn't done with me. One night, maybe a week later, I was walking the basement corridor, the one that runs under the old psych wing. Nobody likes going down there. The ceiling is low, the pipes sweat condensation, and the air smells like mold and rust. I just turned into the long stretch past the laundry chute when I heard it. Bare feet slapping against tile, coming up behind me. I spun around, flashlight out. The beam caught movement at the far end of the hall. Just for a second, a pale shape ducking behind the corner. "Hello?" My voice cracked. Nothing. Just the slow drip of water from the pipes. I started walking again, faster now. The corridor stretched ahead of me, longer than I remembered. No doors, no side halls, just tile and pipes and that endless hum of fluorescent lights. And then, without warning, the lights above me started shutting off. One by one, in a wave coming toward me. Click, click, click. The darkness chased me down the hall. I broke into a run. My boots pounded the floor, my breath coming in short gasps. I aimed my flashlight ahead, but the beam barely cut through the dark. The hall kept stretching and stretching, like it wasn't taking me anywhere. I swear it felt like I was running for minutes, hours, the lights snapping off behind me, that barefoot slap echoing somewhere close, too close. Finally, up ahead, I saw the exit door. The little red exit sign glowed like salvation. I hit it at full speed, shoved through, and nearly collided with Carlos. I was back in the security booth, like I'd stepped through the wrong door. Carlos jerked back, spilling his coffee. "Jesus, Eddie, where the hell did you come from?" I couldn't answer. My lungs were burning, but I hadn't left the booth for more than 10 minutes. I turned back. The door I'd just come through wasn't there. Just the same cinder block wall it had always been. That night, when I finally managed to calm down, I went back to the records office. I don't know what I was looking for. Proof I wasn't losing it. I dug out Jane Doe's file again. This time, something new was inside. A Polaroid. It showed the basement corridor, the one I'd just run through, and in the middle of the frame, blurry but clear enough, was me, flashlight raised, face twisted in panic. I didn't tell Carlos about the Polaroid. I couldn't. How could I even begin to explain it? It hadn't been there the first time I opened the file. I was sure of it. Someone or something had put it there for me to find. The next few shifts, I tried to keep my head down. I told myself I wouldn't go near the records office or the psych wing again. do my rounds, drink my coffee, go home. But she had other plans. It was around 3:30 a.m., a dead hour in the hospital. Most patients were sleeping and the halls were quiet. I was walking past the ICU when I heard the intercom crackle overhead. A calm female voice said, "Code Blue, Psychiatric Wing, Room 312. I froze. There is no Code Blue in the Psych Wing. That place has been sealed for over 20 years, and Room 312, the file had mentioned it. That was her room. I looked at the nurses' station. The staff on duty didn't even glance up. The overhead speaker was silent. No one else had heard it. Just me. Against every instinct, I found myself heading toward the old psych wing door. My keys jangled in my shaking hand as I unlocked it. The air was colder inside, like always. My flashlight beam swept over the peeling walls, the dust hanging thick in the air. Halfway down the hall, I stopped. Room 312. The door was wide open. The bed was made. Crisp white sheets tucked tight, pillow fluffed. On the nightstand sat a paper hospital bracelet. I picked it up. The label was faded, but the letters were still there. Jane Doe. And then behind me, the floor creaked. I spun around. She was inches from me. Her face was pale, eyes dark, hair hanging limp around her shoulders. She opened her mouth, and at first I thought she was going to scream, but it came out as a whisper. "You don't belong here." Her hand shot out, ice-cold fingers gripping my wrist. The flashlight tumbled from my hand and clattered across the floor, spinning the beam wildly over the cracked ceiling. I tried to pull away, but she was stronger than she looked. Her nails dug into my skin, and I felt something hot drip down my arm. Blood. The intercom above crackled again, louder this time, filling the whole wing. "Code Blue, Room 312, Code Blue." I wrenched free and bolted. I don't even remember how I got out of that wing, just a slamming door and the sound of my own ragged breathing echoing down the stairwell. Back in the booth, Carlos was dozing in his chair. He jolted awake when I stumbled in, pale and bleeding. "Jesus, Eddie, what the hell happened?" I shoved my arm under the light. 4 neat crescent-shaped cuts marked my wrist, deep enough to bleed, shallow enough to sting like fire. "Nothing," I lied. I slipped. But we both knew I was full of shit. That morning, when my shift ended, I went home and locked every door and window in my apartment. I couldn't shake her words. "You don't belong here." Was she talking about the hospital? Or something else? I thought maybe I could just call out sick, take a week off, clear my head. But when I checked my phone, there was a voicemail waiting. Timestamped 4:12 a.m., right after I'd run from room 312. I pressed play. Static hissed for a few seconds. Then a whisper, faint but clear. "See you tonight." I thought about quitting. God knows I should have. But when your bills depend on a paycheck, you don't just walk away. I told myself if I just kept my head down, ignored the whispers, she'd leave me alone. She didn't. 2 nights after the voicemail, I came in for my shift. Carlos wasn't there. No explanation, just a floater covering monitors, some kid fresh out of training. He didn't know about the dead spots in the cameras. He didn't know about Jane Doe. That night, the halls felt heavier, like the air itself had weight. I did my rounds slow, flashlight trembling in my hand. When I passed the psych wing door, I heard it again. Slap, slap, slap. Bare feet on tile. And then the intercom overhead, blasting so loud I clapped my hands over my ears. Transfer, room 312, Transfer. The kid on monitors didn't react. Neither did the nurses at their stations. Only me. I don't know what pulled me in. Maybe I knew I wouldn't have peace until I faced her. Maybe she wanted me to come. The psych wing was colder than I'd ever felt it. My breath fogged in the beam of my flashlight. Room 312 was waiting. The bed was empty this time, sheets pulled back. A wheelchair sat in the middle of the room, its straps hung open like welcoming arms. On the seat lay another hospital bracelet. This one didn't say Jane Doe. It said Edward Martinez. My name. I dropped the flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor, and that's when I saw her, standing in the corner, eyes locked on me. "You don't belong here," she whispered again, her head tilted, hair falling over her face. "But you will." The door slammed shut behind me. The intercom screamed overhead, deafening now. "Transfer initiated. Room 312. Transfer." I staggered back, clawing at the door, but the knob wouldn't turn. The walls seemed to pulse, the floor trembling under my feet. The wheelchair rattled, its straps writhing like snakes. And then, blackout. When I came to, I was lying on a bed. Crisp white sheets tucked tight, pillow fluffed. My wrist burned. I looked down. A hospital bracelet circled my arm. Name: Jane Doe. Room 312. I screamed until my throat tore raw, but no one came. Only the sound of bare feet pacing slowly outside my door. And that's where I am now. I don't know how long I've been here. Nights and days blur together. The lights flicker on and off. Sometimes the intercom calls my name. Sometimes it calls hers. I think they've made room for me. If anyone reading this works night shifts at St. Mary's, don't answer the intercom if it calls a code blue in the psych wing. And if you see a barefoot woman in a gown watching you from the end of the hall, run.